Here at the BC Natural Resources Forum, of course, LNG is on everyone's minds. What would you say makes Canada and BC such a great place in the world to pursue these kind of opportunities?
To pursue LNG, Canada has a wonderful opportunity, in BC specifically. As Petronas, we're one of the major players in LNG around the world. And of course, as we continue to grow our LNG business, we look for sources of supply that give us that delivery of what I would say is clean burning, well-regulated, environmentally strong Canadian natural gas into markets that are going to grow. The World Energy forecast, if you will, says that world energy demand is going to grow by over 25% in the next 20 years. And I look at it as that energy is going to come from somewhere. And it can come from Canada, which, as I said, is well-regulated and has strong environmental standards, great partnerships with First Nation communities. And if we don't supply it, somebody will. And so from my perspective, that's an opportunity that BC has to play a leading role in the world, and a leading role in terms of energy supply, and a leading role in terms of emissions reduction around the world.
Excellent. So when it comes to looking at new opportunities for LNG, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges for your company in making these kinds of investment decisions?
Yeah, I think, as I said, the quality of the resources without question in British Columbia. The regulations are world-class, the environmental standards are world-class, the quality of people and employment, the skills just are better than we see many places in the world. And so the supply and the opportunity is there. As I talked, the markets are there. And so connecting them is what's critical. And that connection requires dialogue. It requires us to sit and talk. Forums like this are fantastic because it brings together industry, it brings together government, it brings together communities, and it brings together First Nations and Indigenous members. And in order for us to be successful long term, we have to have that dialogue and we have to sit and have meaningful consultation. Petronas thinks in generations. We're going to be here for decades. And I want to know that 10, 20, 40 years from now, those relationships are such that we can take that Canadian natural gas into the world, and we can do it in a model that's the envy of everybody else in every jurisdiction. And I think we can do that. I think we can do that.
Exciting times.
It's exciting for us, yes.
So speaking of your attendance at the forum here in Prince George, what has your experience like been so far? What's been on your agenda?
Yeah, so the agenda is, for me, this is the opportunity to have a dialogue. This is the opportunity to meet people and try and create commonality in terms of how to move our business forward. That business is only going to move forward if we've got partnerships, and those partnerships have to be companies like ours that have the markets and the resource that we want to deliver. It comes from partnerships with government to set the standard, the policy, and the regulations that allow us to do that. And it comes from that dialogue and conversation with First Nations, Indigenous leaders, and community leaders who have a very significant stake and should prosper from the development in their areas. And so for me, the opportunity and what I'm most pleased with here is the chance to have those conversations, continue the dialogue. And it's critical that it continues. It can't just be for 3 days. We have to take these opportunities to grow that dialogue. And in doing so, I think, as I said, BC Natural Resources have a place in the world. We should have a leadership role in the world. We can influence global emissions in a positive way. And as a company that has the ability to create those links, I look forward to doing business here for a long time.
And speaking of working with First Nations in particular, would you say that this is something that really you're doing more so in Canada compared to other places in the world? What has been the process like for you in this kind of new era of working with First Nations?
Yeah. Petronas has a value system that demands partnership with Indigenous communities. We have that experience around the world. We're active in over 30 countries. Every country that we're active in, we create those relationships and the partnerships with Indigenous communities. We've been very successful as an organization worldwide in building skills, competence, and showing progression from the Indigenous communities through into our employment ranks and ultimately into our leadership roles. That's the same model we adopt in Canada. Part of that for me is education, helping Petronas and our company understand the history, the culture, what's important in the local communities, helping the local communities have a long-term vision of what we see as the future for us in Canada. And then, as I said, we need to bring that together. And we need to bring that together in a manner that's open, transparent, respectful, and allows us to partner long term. Without that partnership, I think we fail. I think everybody fails if we can't create that long-term, lasting relationship.
Is there anything that government could be doing better to support your work?
Yeah, I think government needs to be at the table. Government needs to be an active participant in the dialogue. I think government can play a role to facilitate that dialogue. I think, as with everybody, we're all trying to find our way through. We know we have to do things differently. We know that we have to think long-term and we have to think in decades. And that requires that consolidated, coordinated, collaborative approach. And so my encouragement to government continues to be, take a seat at the table. Let's make sure that we're all at the table together. Let's find solutions that are long-lasting, as I said, collaborative, and create a roadmap for us to do business in the long term. I've seen that commitment at this conference today. In the conversations I've had, both with government, First Nation leaders, and industry, I think there's a commitment to do that. And so we have to keep that momentum. We have to keep that dialogue going long term.
Excellent. So your company has been looking at LNG in BC for many years. What helped kind of bring you to the final decision of investing in Coastal GasLink?
Yeah, in Coastal GasLink and LNG Canada, we see a great opportunity for us. We believe fundamentally in the LNG business. Part of Petronas' worldwide business model is we will grow our LNG business, and we're focused on growing that LNG business in markets such as Asia, Southeast Asia, where economies are growing, population is growing, energy demand is growing, and we see that that can be supplied by Petronas through LNG. If you expand that view to where's the supply going to come from, Canada is top of the list. Canada has excellent regulatory standards. We have high environmental expectations. We have a long history. Progress, our predecessor has been active in this province for 19 years. And so for us, there's a real operating history. And we're seeing an emergence of an opportunity to create partnerships long term. So for us, it's connecting those two. And the LNG Canada project, under the leadership of the group that's there, that's top notch. The partners are all international. They're very large. They're very sophisticated. It was a natural first step. LNG Canada represents less than 10% of our total proven contingent resource. That commitment is small relative to the size of resource that we have. And so we'll continue to look for opportunities to grow our business in Canada, but we'll do them the right way. We'll continue to do it the right way.
Excellent. Mark, what else would you like to share with us, either about this project or your experience in Fitzgerald or your outlook for the future?
Yeah, Petronas is here for a long time. That's the key message that I continue to convey to people. And that vision over decades in Canada is connecting the top quality resource that we have in Northeast British Columbia with world markets that are demanding energy. That energy is going to be filled. It's going to be filled from somewhere. And from my perspective, I take a global view, and I think well-regulated, effective, efficiently developed British Columbia natural gas has a key role to play in that energy mix in the developing economies. It would be personally disappointing to me if we missed that opportunity, because I think we're seeing innovation in this industry, we're seeing the movement to clean tech, we're seeing investment in that transition, we're seeing investment in the communities, and that's the model that the world needs to follow. And for me, if we don't fill that need, somebody will. And it would be extremely disappointing as a member of Canada if we're not able to do that as a citizen.